make some sense of it all, but I can see it makes no sense at all. Is it cool to go to sleep on the floor? 'Cause I don't think that I can take anymore. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is, what day is it? Monday, March 2nd, 2026. And again, 2026 feels future-y to me. It feels like we're far in the future and reality doesn't mean anything in this post-truth world. Carney invests $100 billion in India and Indian university students. Whoops, my microphone's breaking. India and Indian university students to come to Canada because immigration is now about trade or something like that. Look at the population. We're increasing, they say. And that's not good. But again, I think that our economy is functionally a Ponzi scheme. And without a continual infusion of money and the people acquiescing to that, then the whole thing collapses, and it collapses violently, bad. Like it wouldn't be very good. The options are have your constituents upset at you for high immigration, or have your constituents respond violently because there's no food. And so there's incentives for the politicians to do this, even if they weren't captured by the globalists, but most of them are. Most of the greater Vancouver area has been ceded back to First Nations. The call is coming from inside the house, if you will. The problem is that our government keeps ceding land to other nations within Canada, and we're all just supposed to smile placidly and deal with it, even though it undermines your own property rights, which are supposed to be something that the government protects. When they don't protect it, they should be removed. But when they run a genocide and replacement migration is a genocide, they should also be removed. Oil and gas and food prices are up due to the Iran war. And if Trump doesn't handle this thing quick, all of the gains on the economy are going to come to a grinding halt. If the Strait of Hormuz and gas prices and energy prices remain, pressure on that will tank Trump's economy. So we'll see what Trump, I don't think Trump wants that because the optics aren't good, but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. We're going to start with Iran. And Liberals passed the budget implementation bill. This is a few days ago and I missed it, so I wanted to mention it. And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we've got to start with Iran. We are going to start with Iran because it's a big deal. And I got gas in both my cars because I thought it's going up. It's going back up to where it was when the government was just taxing inputs and being a-holes. So, gosh, it's terrible. But here we are. I haven't actually even seen how much the price of oil has gone up. I was hoping I could get in before it went up, and I kind of did. I got it on the high end, but still, because in the morning it'll be $1.30, but in the evening it'll be $1.15. So that's a lot of wiggle room. I got it around 127, which I was like, okay, fine. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. I was like, fine, this is fine. Regardless, National Post is reporting the NDP call for a moment of silence in the House of Commons for Alatoya Khomeini. Really, March 1st. Now this is a screenshot, so again, take it with a grain of salt. But it seems like everybody in Canada is mourning the fall of the Iranian mullahs and the regime, and that's weird. That's super weird. Mario says, insane. Salar Galamai, a Canadian cruiserweight boxing champion, had 17 bullets shot into his boxing gym. Why? Because he supported the freedom of the Iranians, Persians. Anita Anand, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, said last year that she was concerned about Tehran's activating terrorist sleeper cells on Canadian soil. There's an estimated 700 Iranian regime agents covertly operating in Canada. They came to Canada knowing this was going to be their safe haven. Maybe. This is the consequence of loose liberal immigration policies where tens of thousands can come to the country without ever speaking with a government official. Pretty wild stuff. And the idea that, oh no, there's a conflict in your country, come to Canada, we've got lots of room. That's a terrible idea. That is a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea for us, for cohesion of the country, for all sorts of things. And I had more tabs with sleeper cells. Everybody and their dog is talking about sleeper cells, but a bunch of the tabs, sometimes when I go back the next day, the tweet doesn't exist or whatever happens and it doesn't load for some reason. Sometimes it just loads my website instead of the Twitter link I put in. I don't know why that happens. But regardless, there's a whole bunch of people talking about, oh my gosh, there's all these Iranians here. But Biden had the total border open, and just like Canada, no vetting, right? People were just coming in. You don't know who these people are. And so could there be sleeper cells in the United States? Yes. Have we already seen it? Yes. There's in New York, shutting down Times Square to scream Aloha Snack Bar and all sorts of crazy things. And that's just getting started. So my God, we're in another turn. Like things have changed so much now. Getting back to what used to be normal in 2018, people would, I don't know. And 2018 is not even really normal, right? 2009 maybe, but even then, not really normal. Managed markets, 1999 Enron, right? Not really normal. All of this stuff has been happening for decades, and we've just been the victims of it. Melissa says, holy crap, Islamic regime sleeper cells in Toronto, Canada fired 17 bullets into the boxing gym. Same story. People are just reacting. Hegseth says, a message to the Iranian people. We hope the Iranian people take advantage. So we're giving you an opportunity, Iranian people. We don't want to come in and we don't want to occupy your country. Take your country and govern it the way you want to govern it. Take the opportunity that President Trump is giving you. Go. This doesn't sound like Iraq. So lots of people want to say this is a quagmire and Trump is getting himself locked up in a quagmire. There's a 6-minute video that we're not going to watch, but it's at the end of Trump giving an update, and they're all saying it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks now. So 3 to 4 weeks to flatten the Iranian curve. Oh, that would have been a good title for today's show. Darn. But here's Hegseth saying, Iranian people, if you want it, it's yours. Have it. Take it.
We hope the Iranian people take advantage of this incredible opportunity. President Trump has been clear, now is your time. To Iranian security forces, choose wisely. President Trump has also been clear about your fate in either direction. To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb, and he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes. Israel has clear missions as well, for which we are grateful. Capable partners, as we've said since the beginning, capable partners are good partners. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force.
Canada said, oh yeah, we stand with Trump, but still, I don't know. I think that a lot of people don't. And I think that it was surprising to me that our government came out on the side of standing with Trump in this whole thing. Here is this lady, and she's saying that what happened?
To me, the thing that really...
What happened is really different than what people thought was going to happen if something like this were to come about. If the United States attacked Iran, they thought they'd be dealing with Russia and China, and they're not. And that's weird. Why not? We're going to look at that in just a second. Here's this lady saying, hey, you know what didn't happen? Russia and China.
To me, the thing that really stands out, most importantly, is that nobody has come to the Islamic regime's defense. Not Russia, not China. We thought that we were facing this great axis of evil that was uniting as a front to create this multipolar universe in which the United States was no longer a superpower, and that turned out to be absolutely false. And what you can see from that is the larger picture of how the president is protecting the United States and setting us up for world dominance for generations to come. He is picking off our adversaries one by one, isolating them from each other and isolating them from their oil. Remember that 20% of China's oil came from either Venezuela or Iran. I mean, how are the Chinese supposed to take Taiwan now, minus 20% of their oil supply? So what we're really seeing here is, I'm calling it the locked-in presidency. He is just, every action he takes has not one, but 2 or 3 or 4 strategic advantages to strengthen the United States, to make us stronger, safer, and more prosperous, as Marco Rubio promised in his confirmation hearings. I think that's really what we're seeing.
Interesting perspective. And so a lot of people, the experts in the room, if you will, were saying you can't poke this Iranian bear because that pokes Russia and China, and you don't want that. And so everybody was like, oh, we'll just pay them off. We'll just pay them off. We'll just give them lots of money, and they won't even need nukes because they've already won. So we'll just give them money, endless money. The taxpayers don't care, and apparently in Canada they don't. This person, Imaz Mahmoud, says the Moscow-Tehran axis is collapsing before our eyes. It's been confirmed that Iran did in fact appeal to Russia, invoking clauses on mutual assistance in the event of a threat to sovereignty. Moscow, who could be surprised, resorted to legal sophistry. Since the U.S. and Israel strikes are framed as targeted operations against terrorist infrastructure rather than a full-scale invasion, the Kremlin interprets this as a situation that does not trigger the collective defense clause. No, it's sovereignty. No, they're just cutting the head off the mullahs. That's all. Isn't that the government that you agreed to protect? Anyway, regardless, regardless. It's not sovereignty because Trump's saying, Iranians, take your country if you want it. Iran reportedly asked Russia to activate S-400 systems and something else, Lear-3 electronic Karushka and Lear-3 electronic warfare systems. I don't know what those are. Like maybe they're missile systems, but I don't know what they are. At Russian bases in Syria, a couple of places that I'm not going to try and say, to blind Israeli aircraft. Instead, Russia not only refused, but according to some reports, even turned off transponders and activated radar systems at its bases during the flight of Israeli missiles in order to avoid accidental involvement and any pretext for entering the conflict. And finally, Moscow's refusal has been heard in Pyongyang, Beijing, and across the global south. Russia has demonstrated that it is an ally until the first serious challenge. Iranian elites, especially the pragmatic wing, are now openly saying that the strategic bet on Russia was a mistake, that led to a national catastrophe. What can one say? Slow learners indeed. Yeah, so interesting stuff going on there. And then this is the aspect of China kind of dug a little bit deeper. I may read it all, I may not. It might be a little bit wonky and up the nose for the podcast, but that's what this podcast is about. Brian says, why isn't China intervening to stop the United States' war of aggression against Iran? Is it a war of aggression? Because it doesn't look like they want it any more than they want Venezuela. And they're going to share that money with the Venezuelans. So, hey, if Trump cut off the head of the communist apparatus that's wearing the Canadian Edgar suit and agreed to let us develop our oil and share the profits and give us all our money at par, US dollars, at this point, where do we sign? Anyway, somehow this is still a question people are asking, so I'll explain. One, China's military is built to defend China within and along its borders against a massive and growing U.S. military buildup along its peripheries ongoing for decades. Its forces are organized around hardware designed specifically for this purpose, not to project military power around the globe like the U.S. does. And the U.S. has these capabilities because it is an aggressor, not for national defense. China has no ability to project the military power required to confront and successfully stop a full-scale U.S. war of aggression on the other side of the planet with the capabilities it has for national defense. In order to launch this war on Iran, the United States spent decades building up a network of global and regional bases, logistical networks, ammunition depots, fuel dumps, regional integrated air defense capabilities, etc., to first encircle Iran and then attack it. China would be required to create an equal or greater network throughout the region to stop this, and this simply isn't possible. The U.S. built its network through both politically capturing nations in the region, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Bahrain, UAE, Kuwait, and invading and occupying them for Iraq and Syria. China simply doesn't conduct its foreign policy this way because if it did, it would be just as bad as the U.S. itself. This guy is not a fan of the United States, but still, it's interesting because I think that he makes a good point about China having a different position for its military, and that's the point I want you to take from this, not that Trump and the Americans are terrible. If you think China could simply project military power over the horizon, this is even more difficult and unrealistic. This requires huge amounts of long-range aircraft, immense aerial refueling capabilities, and long-range munitions, as well as forward bases at least near the region to do so, which the United States has. Sending naval vessels would simply place them at the mercy of a better prepared and more extensive military position the U.S. has established over decades. It's a chess game. If you hold a position, then the squares around you are also held by virtue of you being there. Unless somebody wants to risk it and they have backup, they can't come and take your squares. Right? And if you play chess, I'm not very good at chess. Like my finish is terrible. My checkmate, awful. So if you play chess, you understand the open of a chess game is all about position on the board. And I keep trying to tell my kids this, like, you have to position your pieces for the war you're going to play later, right? You have to put them into a position where you can achieve checkmate. That's what the open is about. And then the mid game is about trading pieces to gain the advantage. And then the end game is checkmating that king. And so, like, I'm bad at checkmating, but you can see the squares if you extrapolate, right? If you look at what's going on and then look at how chess works and go, oh yeah, like I can see that. I can see it clear as day. I can see it. Anyway, what China has likely done is all that it can do: provide economic support against illegal U.S. sanctions, provide technical material and support from Iran's military and industrial production, provide military support through the transfer of weapons and equipment. So they've got 125,000 people in the Iranian National Guard, 90 million Persians, or 90 million population or whatever. 125,000 people. How long is that going to last? Like, how long is that going to last? If this thing lasts as long as Iraq lasts, then we're being lied to about Iran. And I think we're being lied to about Iran. But it looks like they're trying to free it, maybe, kind of, sort of. But if this thing drags on, it's a red flag. There's a red flag. Because 125,000 people does not hold against 90 million people, with the United States on the side of the citizens who will partner with the United States and give them their oil, right? Like, so it just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. So there's something else going on. Anyway, the last point regarding the amount of time it takes to effectively integrate new military hardware into a military is exactly why Ukraine has failed to absorb and fully utilize floods of Western weapons and equipment and the U.S. proxy war on Russia being waged there. Conclusion, there are real-world limitations on what nations like Russia and China can do against the United States' wars of aggression elsewhere, especially considering the fact that the United States is waging proxy war on both Russia and China at the same time it wages direct war on Iran. Russia and China are doing what is realistic and within their capabilities and are constantly expanding their own capabilities in order to do more when possible. Do not confuse real limitations with a lack of concern or will, and realize blaming Russia or China as a U.S. war of aggression simply serves Washington's interests. Blah, 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 blah. I just think it's interesting that there are real limitations to the military. And if you look at the positioning of the Chinese military and you look at the positioning of the American military, they're very different. And that's notable. It's worth talking about. Jan says, Venezuela supplies maybe 3 or 4% of China's imported oil, but Iran is somewhere between 15 to 23%. Gordon Chang told me that President Trump is going after the Chinese with his war on Iran. He's doing it indirectly. He's cutting off their sources of oil, just like with the communists and Cuba. And they're going to invade Cuba. Friendly, though. Super friendly invasion. Like, hey, guys, would you like to be like Guam? Just wondering. He's cutting off their sources of oil. President Trump may allow the Venezuelans to sell their oil to China, but not at the heavy discounted rates that China was benefiting from. And Chinese factories are now dependent on cheap oil. Well, they're not getting it anymore. If they get their oil, they're going to have to pay market prices. So, wow, right? Like, very, very big differences, very, very big situations happening here. Gunther says, Fox News, devastating loss. 3 U.S. F-15E Strike Eagles were mistakenly shot down by Kuwait air defenses at 11:03 p.m. Sunday night while flying combat missions in support of Operation Epic Fury. All were able to eject, all survived. I don't know if there's any injuries, but all survived. I saw one guy in the back of an SUV. And the locals were taking care of them. So good, good on them, right? Good job, guys. CBC Watcher says, joint statement by Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, and the U.S. The Islamic Republic's actions represent a dangerous escalation that violates the sovereignty of multiple states and threatens regional stability. The targeting of civilians and of countries not engaged in hostilities is reckless and destabilizing behavior. And so there's more, but I'm not going to read it right now. Link is in the description if you're interested. But pretty wild stuff. Here is Germany, and they say, Iran, stop it. You stop it, Iran. You're not behaving right. Stop it. And people are saying, so the United States can invade Iran, and they don't have to stop it, but Iran has to stop doing what they're doing. Okay. And people are very skeptical about this. Do you think that the nuclear program is a pretense for Trump to go in and do Israel's bidding? Or is there something else going on with Iran that is needing to be dealt with, and this is as good an excuse as any? Does this move? I think that Iran, North Korea, a few others, Venezuela, Cuba maybe too, are all deep state saber-rattling areas that money is laundered through. I don't think this is a country that is a country the way you and I think of our country, except that our country isn't even the way you and I think of our country, right? We don't have a democracy. We have a dictatorship of tyranny, and they're taking all of our stuff and replacing us with Indians. And that's weird. That's weird. Okay. They shouldn't be doing that. So I don't think Iran exists as a country in the way we think that we exist as a country. They're just there to launder money and saber rattle and pretend they have weapons of mass destruction. And if Trump's doing something about that where nobody else could, I'm on board. Great. But if he's doing, if it's weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months and years and years and years in Iran, quagmire, more funds, millions of dollars to build a gas station, not on board. You understand there's a difference. And I think that the difference is very easy to see. It's not hard to see, and people will lie about it. Here's Germany's Merz. Is he telling the truth or is he lying? I don't know. Here's Merz. He says, we did not know how far. Oh, sorry, I got to get out of the way here. The region will go to be drawn. Sorry, I'll try again. We'll start at the beginning. We do not know how far the region will be drawn into escalation by Iran's harsh counterattacks. We take the concerns of our partners in Iran's immediate neighborhood in the Gulf and in Europe very seriously. We therefore call on Tehran to immediately cease these indiscriminate attacks. Right. And so problems for Germany, and saying this is Iran's fault. This isn't the United States' fault. This isn't anybody else's fault other than Iran, but it's Iran's fault. Interesting. You stop it, Iran. Food professor says oil and natural gas are up this morning after the Iran strikes. Will this impact food prices in Canada? Short answer, yes, if it lasts. Energy drives transportation, packaging, and processing. Grocery inflation follows with a lag. Watch diesel. That's the tell. Yep. Because diesel is paid by company credit cards and gasoline is paid by consumers. So the diesel's increased to cover the price of gas. Businesses cover the price of subsidized cheaper gas for drivers, I think. Here's open source intel, and they say, in addition to the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait and Bahrain, the U.S. Embassy in Jordan have also issued a security alert about Iran and all the rest. So that's interesting. The Crown Prince of Iran, Persia, is being asked, is he going to lead Iran? And he says, I don't want to be a politician. And but they're looking for an interim leader because they killed all of the potential ones.
Prince Reza Pahlavi told us he wants to lead Iran in a transition to democracy.
You don't want to be king?
I'm not running for office. I'm not.
Are you saying in this interview that you wouldn't lead Iran?
That's a different thing. They trust me as a transitional leader, not as the future king or future president or future whatever.
Prince Reza Pahlavi told us.
So he's not interested. Not as the future anything. He just, loves his country and stuff. Margaret says Senate Intel Chair Tom Cotton tells CBS Major Garrett that U.S.-Israeli attacks in Iran will be weeks, not days long. Overnight, Trump said it would be a massive and ongoing operation. And here's Trump talking about that. Not quite yet. Jonathan says President Trump told me last night that the U.S. had identified possible candidates to take over Iran, but they were killed in the initial attack. The attack was so successful, it knocked out most of the candidates. Trump told me it's not going to be anybody that we were thinking of because they're all dead. Second or third place is dead. So here's second place. Cloud says the temporarily acting supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Araf, was killed after news strikes on Tehran, according to Israeli media. He was appointed this morning to replace Khamenei, who was also killed yesterday in the strikes by the U.S. and Israel. Anyway, the next day in the chamber. So who wants to be the supreme leader today? Anybody? No? Okay. Everybody's the supreme leader. Here's Trump, and he says, Tommy Robinson says, the White House posted the same thing. This is just the first one I saw. Trump releases a new statement. The entire military command is gone of Iran, and many of them wanted to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. The end is in sight. Iran will be free. But this is a 6-minute video from Trump talking about all this. We'll listen to the first bit, I guess. Here we go.
Over the past 36 hours.
It's too fast. Sorry, everybody, for the too fast speed. One fast speed.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military...
And I told you about that. So here is, the last one on Iran. And Chris says, shocking, CSIS director exposes 20 Iranian officials, spies and potential terrorists living freely in Canada, 3 ordered deported, but who let them in under the Trudeau-Carney watch? Liberal open borders and zero visa screening, national security disaster. How many more lurk undetected? Wake up, Canada. And yeah, so this is the Boogeymen, and they're using it as a fear thing, like, oh, these sleeper cells and these Iranians and all the rest. And not that I don't believe it, but it works perfectly to scare people. And people love, the powers that be love to use fear as a control mechanism. And so they've got it. With that, I've got to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. If not, that's okay. I'll be around tomorrow. And I mean, we've got a ton more other show. We've got the invasion ongoing in the West. We've got some Alberta news, some trade news about India and the students coming, freedom of speech, food news, all sorts of other stuff, and a second USA thing, because it's just so interesting, but has nothing to do with Iran. So if you want to watch the rest of it, go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up. If not, that's okay, as I said. And everybody else, I will carry on as soon as I kill the stream. I usually say goodbye nicer, so I felt kind of bad, but I clicked the button. So what are you going to do? Oh, stopping stream. I don't know if the stream is actually stopped. Okay, it is. We'll carry on. Invasion ongoing of the West. National Post is reporting overwhelmed by asylum claims.